Live on tape, Work in Progress, a World at Work podcast about work, life, and everything in between. With award-winning radio host Tom Alexander and WorkSpan's Not Safe for Work columnist Charles Epstein. Here are your hosts, Tom and Charles.
Welcome, everyone. This is Work in Progress, along with my partner, Charles Epstein. My name's Tom Alexander. Hey, Charles.
Hey, Tom. I have to tell you, I don't want to spend too much time patting ourselves on the back. But I was listening to last week's podcast, which we did in the face of Dorian, which at the time was gathering steam and heading our way. And I was impressed. I was impressed with our composure and cogence.
Yeah, well, speak for yourself. I was absolutely sweating over here, but
yeah, well, hey, look, grace under intense pressure. Actually, somebody, a colleague of mine, I said, look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back to you next week, perhaps the week after. He said, hey, look, don't worry. Just get back to me when you dry off. And I said, well, much better that you said that than get back to me when you dry out, bada bing. But then I said to him, down here, it's all about moisture. It's all about perpetual dampness. It's the state of perpetual dampness. If we're not getting rained on and wind swept, we're obviously dealing with the intense humidity. And I said, it has the makings of a great horror film, The Dampening, where you have a group of transplanted New Yorkers here in Boca Raton trying to outrun the gathering ominous mist. What do you think?
I love it. The lengthening shadow?
Yes, the lengthening shadow. The lengthening shadow. You know my phraseology after all these years.
I think there's probably 3 major languages in the United States, English, Spanish, and Epsteinian.
Epsteinian. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in any case, just getting back to last week and Paige, she described the time she laid out her plan before the board of a company that hired her and entrusted her with a $40 million marketing budget, and she got no pushback, which she immediately, and it turns out correctly, identified as a red flag. And I totally identify with that. Not the $40 million budget part, but the part where you make a presentation or you send in some copy or a draft of an article, and you get what seems to be blanket approval, and you're thinking, this can't be, surely if you listened or read it closely, you should have had something to respond with, something to disagree about, something to ask, for clarification on. I mean, look, it's better than the alternative, somebody finding fault over some inconsequential thing, or even worse, something where they're clearly wrong, which is a dilemma because the client is always right. So I'm sure this has happened to you.
Well, probably on a somewhat lesser level, but we've had band performances with Earth Code, where we've just finished a highly complex Herbie Hancock piece, or Herbie Hancock-like piece, with a certain stylistic bravura that just real power, and we're all jacked up, and we. We just pull it off with remarkable aplomb, and then the audience reaction is stunned silence, followed by crickets. In fact, even the crickets are silent. So that's a buzzkill, man.
Well, but maybe, and I've been to some of these performances, maybe you're just misreading it. Maybe they're stunned by the virtuosity on offer. Have you ever thought of that?
Huh. Well, no, that I have to say that has not crossed my mind. No, I don't think it's that at all, Charles.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, hey, look, you can't accuse me for lack of trying.
No, listen. You know what? I got to start rethinking this stuff. I need to start being a little more positive.
Yes.
So I think I'm gonna take that into account and think about that stunned silence as just shock and awe.
Well, I don't want to get out in front of us, but one of our guests in this show, this podcast, Lindsay Johnson from FitPros, she talks about turning boredom into mindfulness. So, maybe it's just a matter of the mental frame you put these things in. So you look at something and you're automatically thinking negative. You're thinking, oh my God, there's no response. They're just stunned. They can't make sense of what they just heard or saw. But no, they're impressed with collective virtuosity, not to mention the song selection that you play out there. And you need to think a little bit more positively, Mr. Alexander. I hope this session has been helpful to you.
Yes, thank you very much, and stop charging me for overtime.
Will do.
Well, as you alluded to on this week's show, we've got Lindsay Johnson. She's the CEO and founder of FitPros, a corporate wellness company. And Nate Evans joins us. He's the marketing director for Powerblanket, providers of cooling solutions for a variety of industries, including the beer and marijuana industries. So that should be a, what would you call it, Charles? Heady conversation?
Nicely done.
This is Work in Progress. He's Charles Epstein. I'm Tom Alexander. We're back in just a moment.
You're listening to Work in Progress with Tom Alexander and Charles Epstein.
Data, the mantra of business today. It's nothing new to World at Work. It's no small feat that they've been collecting data on salary issues for its salary budget survey for more than 45 years. Think about it, 45 years. With close to 7,000 responses, 2019 Salary Budget Survey is packed with insights on base salaries, merit budgets, promotional increases, and variable pay plans. Curious to know how your company stacks up? HR execs in the know rely on World at Work's Salary Budget Survey. Shouldn't you too? Go to worldatwork.org/salary budget survey to learn more.
The CEO and founder of FitPros, which was formed in 2016 to motivate health and happiness through physical movement and mindful education, where people spend the most time at work. FitPros will step in to support your company, retain and recruit high-caliber employees while positively impacting your bottom line savings through wellness programs at your location. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey there. How's it going?
Doing well, thanks. Please say hello to my partner, Charles Epstein.
Hello, Charles. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, we're delighted. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Lindsay. You're out of San Francisco, yes?
I am. Yeah, we're headquartered in San Francisco.
Oh, lovely. How's it out there?
The sun actually came out. We have these days where you have to wear many layers, and so today the sun came out, and it's t-shirt weather, so I like it.
Well, that is very good for you. But here, as we're recording this, Tom and I are in the crosshairs of Dorian, the hurricane that's barreling toward us. Yes. So, continue to crow about how beautiful it is there. That's okay. That's okay.
Oh man, well I appreciate you guys taking the call while you're undercover. Oh my God.
Well, I was gonna say, if you detect any anxiety in our voices, or if it sounds like we're hurrying, understand that we may be ankle deep in rubble by the time the show runs.
Oh my goodness gracious! Well, if you need a place to stay, you can come out to San Francisco. I've got a couch, so I'll take you guys in.
Wow, that is a great offer. Is that your version of Let's Do Lunch?
It is, yeah. Just hop on a plane, a quick trip, no big deal.
Yes. No, it does sound sincerely offered. So thank you. Anyway, you have a blog post on the site that sort of celebrates boredom and how boredom can be. You'll probably object to the way I put this, but how boredom can be a gateway drug to mindfulness. I think that's a fair way to put it. But in any case, Yeah. So, I myself am seldom bored. I get lazy, distracted, maybe a little irritable, but not really bored. But if I did, I'd certainly much rather be bored than anxious or on edge. So, I take your point, boredom, can have value. But I'm thinking if you can tap into boredom, considering how many people are deeply bored, you tapped into the mother lode, particularly if you can channel it, you can power a small town on the boredom I see just in the faces of my daughter's friends. So I'm curious, how do you tap into boredom? How do you move them from boredom to mindfulness? How do you sort of operationalize that within, the program you offer?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a couple different ways to look at boredom too. Boredom, obviously, in the regard of a human doesn't have certain aspirations, or they're just not looking forward to certain goals, and they're just not sure what to do. And then there's also the side of boredom where we have a million things to do, but maybe we're just not comfortable sitting quietly in the space of mindfulness. And so that's kind of, as you just described, like I have a ton of things to do all the time. But for me, sometimes the sitting in the boredom of like hearing my mind chatter is more challenging sometimes. So to kind of twist that logic a little bit, that's kind of what some of the programs that we bring into the workplace are helping people who are either the first option that I mentioned, like they're just not sure what their goals are or what their ambitions are. We can help them kind of pinpoint those things, but then secondarily talk to the demographic, the part of the population that's like, I've got a lot of things going on. I'm very busy, but what I can't actually do is stop and pause because I'm nervous to hear the mind chatter or the self-talk that isn't very positive. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. But I'm also curious, I'm assuming these programs are offered on site.
Yeah, everything that we do, we bring into company.
Right. And it would just seem to me that, I understand the logic behind it, but it seems to me that so much that goes on in the workplace militates against this kind of mindfulness. And, even if you try to train to be more mindful and slow down that chatter that you talk of, the workplace, I think mindfulness outside of work would be enough of a challenge, but to try to bring it into the workplace, maybe even a bigger challenge. How do you overcome that?
The biggest thing with the programs that we bring in allow people to learn the tools. So, let's say it's a health talk at lunch hours. If people can step away from their desks for 1 hour to learn the tips and tricks from a mindfulness coach or a therapist that comes in to share with them, that's really what we're all about, is the education piece and teaching people how to take what you're learning in the workplace back home and use it in your everyday life. But there's so many other things that you can do in the workplace by just taking a few minutes to just sit at your desk, close your eyes and breathe. Fill your belly with air for 3 deep breaths. So it could be as simple as that.
Lindsay, on your website, your mission statement is to inspire others to uncover their highest health potential by motivating health and happiness, physical movement, and mindful education where people spend the most time at work. So tell us, what is mindful education?
Yeah, it's just that. Our ultimate goal is to work with a company and build out a long-term sustainable program that speaks to their total population, because we know that not every employee wants to do the same thing. Baby boomers might typically don't want to get sweaty in the workplace with the millennials, or millennials don't necessarily want to learn XYZ. And so our goal is to bring a gamut of well-being programs in that can be a little bit of something for everybody. And so, that is everything from the physical fitness classes. So we bring in a yoga, boot camp, boxing, all the high intensity things. And then we also do the lunch and learn talks that we've been talking about. So anything from mindfulness, nutrition, financial wellness, you name the topic, parenting. We've got credentialed speakers that can go in and talk to the group. But then we're also known for our what we call social well-being programs. And that can be anything from a self-defense workshop, a hands-on cooking class, painting classes, or vision boarding workshops. So really what we do is step back and we say, okay, company, tell us about your population, and then let's design a program that works for the majority of people.
Interesting. How did the idea of forming FitPros come to you?
Really came from being that person that was miserable in the workplace. So I worked in corporate marketing for over a decade. I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am today. I had absolutely no idea where to look for health and fitness or how to exercise. I grew up in the Midwest, and I was just that eating Happy Meals and those bad things as a child. And so I didn't have the opportunity growing up to really learn. And so when I was in the workforce, it was, sales meetings where all this bad food was coming in all the time. And my manager was often not one that would encourage me to leave on my lunch break and go for a jog. And so 6 years ago, I hit a wall, and I had to step away from it. It was 2013. I stepped away from it all, and I went to India, and I did my yoga teacher training certification over there, and decided that I was going to become a personal trainer and a yoga teacher and a health coach. And I did that for a few years. And then in 2015, my youngest brother passed away. And when that happened, I said, you know what, I have a greater purpose, and I want to help people that are going through that agony that I once felt in the workplace.
By the way, it always sounds a lot better when you're able to say I went to India to get my meditation training, rather than say I went to Utica to get my meditation training. Maybe your medication training. I don't know about meditation training.
That too. Yeah, a little both.
Yeah. There is, I wouldn't call it a consensus, but there is certainly a contingent of, I guess you'd call them naysayers as far as wellness goes, that we understand that it makes sense. We understand what the value proposition is, but we're just not seeing it. We're not seeing a tangible return on investment. That's obviously not something you've never heard before, because it's out there. So how do you speak to that? What do you say to that?
Behavior change is hard to measure. It's just point blank. It is what it is. Behavior change and every person's unique lifestyle is very hard to change. And so really it's case by case, but I would say the companies that are naysayers or, individuals that are, typically we find, I'll speak from our experience, is those companies try to do all these one-off things here and there. They're like, okay, yeah, we hear that our employees want to have a yoga class, so let's just throw a yoga class out there. Or we hear that they want to try this. But they don't actually do the back end work where they survey them with questions that are really diving into the employee's lifestyle needs, and then framing a program around that is also long-term and sustainable. So, even planning 3 months out is a stretch for a lot of companies. So we find the most success when companies are looking forward and they're planning out a year and saying, okay, we know that we want to do one lunch and learn a month. We know that we want to do a handful of social well-being programs throughout the year and some physical activities. And let's then look at dates and then strategize what those are. So it's really taking a step back and just not trying to throw things at the wall and play the guessing game. So it's working with a consultant.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, is the increasing mobility of the workforce more of a challenge, particularly when you're trying to provide these services on site, and more and more people are not showing up? They're either out in the field or they're at home?
Yeah. I mean, remote workforces are definitely a growing factor these days. And in fact, I mean, that's what FitPros is. We work from an office only 2 days a week. Otherwise, we're spread out throughout the United States. So, but there are a lot of, that's why we also firmly believe in partnerships. And so we've got, a good number of strategic partnerships that do online challenges, that do online trainings and resources, because there's this space is so big, and FitPros on-site services are just one piece of the puzzle. So, we can bring our activities on site, and most of them can be webcast to other offices or to remote employees, for example, a lunch and learn, or, even a meditation. But they're the most impactful when we can do the live ones and they're planned out and enough people know about them to come in.
We're speaking with the CEO and founder of FitPros. It's Lindsay Johnson. And Lindsay, wanted to ask you, what would you say are the 2 to 3 most important innovations that FitPro has brought to wellness? And what do you see as the central challenges in maintaining a healthy, productive workforce moving forward?
2 very, very good questions. So the first one with innovation, I would say just being on the cutting edge of knowing what's hot and new out there is probably a great benefit that we can provide. And for example, in the fitness realm, the new hot class is called Pound Fitness. And so we have partnered with Pound on a national level, and we can offer this amazing, fun, like dance class and all these different offices across the country now, but then also just being very versatile with our programming. So I would say just being able to change things up and stay on the time. So like we randomly had a company ask us if we could do sound healing bowl meditation. So it's where the teacher brings in these, a bunch of different bowls and instruments. And we're like, well, it's not something we've done before. It's definitely in a Northern California thing, kind of hippy dippy, but yeah, we have the resources. So just being flexible is something I would say that falls in our innovation. Central challenges would probably be, I would say, one, helping a company internally promote it. A challenge a rebuttal we often get is surveying, for example. Oh no, we can't send a survey because we email our employees too often and they won't participate in surveys. Okay, well, that's unfortunate because you want to spend money on wellness, but you don't want to know what's going to actually retain them. So that is a difficulty. And then just internal promotion in general. So FitPros creates a flyer for them. So we take that off their plate. Like we'll create some marketing materials to help them internally promote, but then are they actually internally promoting it? How are they getting employees to show up for these things? That's always a challenge. I'd say that's the biggest one that comes top of mind.
We talk about the mobile workforce. There are just a lot of major shifts that are occurring today that are going to be over the next 5-10 years. The workplace is going to be very, very different. I know Tom sort of touched on it in answering you that last question, but do you see technology or do you see anything on the horizon that's going to dramatically change things? Where do you see wellness in 5-10 years? I mean, for instance, have you imagined any kind of framework where, okay, you can't email employees, you can't send out a brochure to employees? Maybe there is some other framework, another delivery vehicle or engagement tool. Any thoughts on that?
When you first mentioned it, one thing that comes to mind that is also just the mental health component, I think, is something that we're going to see over the next handful of years. It's already, obviously, the past couple of years, it's been on people's radars, but I think that companies are getting more comfortable with talking about and making the concept of mental health awareness in the workplace more comfortable. An example is in a couple offices for this one company, we're bringing in a mental a coach to sit down with employees one-on-one, and they have 25 minutes with a counselor to go through what's bothering them and what's going through in their day-to-day. And so I think that is going to be a big thing with companies, that their HR teams, benefit teams are realizing that to have that empathetic openness for their employees. I have another company that has a dream coach on staff. So internally they have a dream coach that actually sits down with their employees and talks about either their literal dreams and their sleep habits, or they'll talk about their dreams of goals and aspirations. And so I think that's a really cool cutting edge thing that we're going to see continuing to evolve.
Oh, I was hoping that service helped you get or have better dreams, or tonight I want to dream in color if that's possible, or black and white. That would be really nice.
There is, especially being in California, the CBD and all that stuff in the workplace is on the conversation radar, which I don't have an opinion on yet, but it's interesting to kind of hear that to your point, seeing colors, who knows where that's going to go.
Or you can it would be nice to induce a nightmare every so often, because it's nothing so exhilarating as waking up from a nightmare. Right?
In cold sweats, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now I can go back to bed. That didn't happen. So there's certainly a mental health value from that.
Yeah, that's true. I should point out that, I think my self-esteem's been taking a hit because I had 3 dreams last night and I wasn't in any of them. So that was...
Yes.
Talk about an ego shot.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lindsay, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Lindsay Johnson is the CEO and founder of FitPros, which was formed in 2016 to motivate health and happiness through physical movement and mindful education, where most people spend their time at work. And Lindsay was in San Francisco and spoke to us today. Thank you so much. We'll be back right after these words.
Sweet dreams are made.
What to do when you need external HR expertise? Head on over to World at Work's vendor directory, kind of like the Yelp of HR, but without the biases. It's where to turn when you're looking for resources and providers in the world of HR, from legal services to compensation management, to loyalty programs, to exec comp, to relocation services, and so much more. You'll find pros in the vendor directory, a seemingly endless reserve of vetted, trusted HR providers. Visit worldatwork.org and take a look.
Today we're joined by Nate Evans. He's the Vice President of Marketing for Powerblanket, and the Marketing Director, Adam Jacobs. Powerblanket is a company out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and offers customized solutions for a wide range of industries needing products to remain at optimal temperatures. Powerblanket's technology products prevent fluids from freezing, protect critical materials and equipment, improve viscosity, optimize processes, keep personnel safe, and provide total temperature control and peace of mind. Gentlemen, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And here's my partner, Charles Epstein.
Hey, guys. Thanks for spending some time. Much appreciated. Anyway, when Adam first reached out, he referred to Powerblanket as a, quote, super chill company based out of Utah. My first thought was, I know this is unfair, guys, but my first thought was, you don't expect super chill companies out of Utah. Brooklyn, Portland, maybe. But then when I went to your website and realized you guys developed cooling technology solutions, it all kind of made sense. But what really caught my eye, you see, down here in South Florida, well, as you can well imagine, you could never get enough cooling solutions. I should mention that as we speak, Hurricane Dorian is bearing down on us. So if you guys ever come up with a hurricane busting solution that doesn't require nukes, we're all ears. Let us know.
We'll see what we can do about that. We'll get our best people on it.
Please. I'm assuming those best people can come up with something that's a little bit short of a Dr. Strangelove scenario. But in any case, back to the super chill comment. In Adam's first email, he mentioned that you guys manufacture temperature control solutions for the beer and marijuana industry. So I assume that was a general comment, Adam. You weren't looking to pander based on what you found out about our recreational consumption habits.
Yeah. We actually are just in about every industry, but we definitely do make products for marijuana and the hydroponics kind of aspect of that.
Gentlemen, you mentioned in your email that your company culture of do your thing is vital to your workplace, which is why y'all get along so well and laugh a lot. And I trust all this laughter and fun has nothing to do with the fact that you work for the beer and pot industries.
Not to dwell, guys. Not to dwell.
Yeah, not to dwell. No, but seriously.
Yeah, in Utah of all places too. So.
Yes, in Utah. Yes. Yeah, I was reading one of your blog posts about how during winter, railroads have to deal with some of the most dangerous effects of snow and ice. Track switches that freeze up lead to costly delays, as well as the potential for derailments. Keeping tracks thawed and switches ice-free is critical for operating a safe and efficient railroad. It never occurred to me that such technology even existed, though, of course, it does make sense. Are there any other applications of your technology that might surprise our listeners?
I would say probably the ones we've covered are the most surprising. The other products we have are, you might say, less sexy. They're in the construction industry. We make concrete curing blankets. We're in a lot of different industries, wrapping tanks and barrels and drums and buckets. And we started in heating and then moved into industrial process chillers, and then found ourselves working in the brewing industry and the cannabis industry. And so it got more interesting from there.
Now, tell us how you came to work for Powerblanket. Where were you before this? I ask, as the company's technology, I think it's fair to say, is somewhat niche.
So my background, I came into Powerblanket kind of a roundabout way. I had some personal connections with the ownership. They were looking into creating a line of floor heating products. And so I entered into a conversation about kind of doing a break-off company using their technology and creating a floor heating line of products. And I moved up to Utah to do that. That didn't work out for us. And they needed a lot of help with marketing. My background was in marketing consulting. I did that for several years. And so I took the reins of the marketing. It was just me in the beginning, and then we built an in-house team of 8 people now.
I know that Salt Lake City has a pretty thriving technology scene. At least it used to. What's it like these days?
Yeah, there's really a ton of growth in Salt Lake. Amazon has moved in, some fulfillment centers. There's a lot of investment into SaaS type businesses, technology. There's been a ton of growth in the past couple of years.
We're speaking today with Nate Evans, and he is the Vice President of Marketing for Powerblanket, and Adam Jacobs, the Marketing Director. Of course, they're based in Salt Lake City. Back to your blog for a moment. You have one post on how long it takes concrete to set and how honey crystallizes. I'm sure our listeners would really be fascinated with the answers to these questions. I know I am.
Oh, by the way, I throw in a third, Nate, if you so choose to accept this. How does paint dry?
How does paint dry? Yeah. Powerblanket started as a company. It was a collaboration between someone in the concrete industry and a professor at the University of Utah. The professor was in the engineering department. It developed this technology. The contractor wanted to work through the winter season. It turns out concrete doesn't cure very well when it's cold. So they got together. They made a product that worked well to lay on top of concrete when it cures, and it kind of solved the problem so they could do jobs throughout the winter.
By the way, I have a handy slogan for you guys if you choose to use it, or if not, I'm not going to be offended.
Pen here, I'll write it down.
Powerblanket, making concrete cool again.
I love it.
Do we have to pay you royalties for that?
You do, but make it payable to work in progress. No problem. Look forward to that. I think this is going to be a wonderful partnership, guys. Any case, I see that you were listed as a recent Great Places to Work, which is a great distinction. It sounds like from Adam's initial email, you guys put great stock in being a super chill company. I know it's not all fun and games. It
Sure.
sounds like actual work is getting done. So in a lot of our conversations, we like to talk about, your culture. Describe for us your culture, how you go about perpetuating the culture and why it's so important, and how it factors into perhaps some of your recruiting, getting some of that talent that's in and around Salt Lake City.
Well, let me start with this. So I came to Powerblanket about 6 years ago. We've made a 180-degree turn in our culture. There were a lot of culture issues at Powerblanket. A lot of companies have the standard canned, this is our value statement. Like, this is what we believe in, but not everyone's bought into it. I think no one had bought into it at Powerblanket except maybe the ownership. There were a few maybe toxic type individuals. And so in the beginning, it was a little rough. Since I was on the management team, my personality is very laid back and chill. And so I was trying to push more of that type of culture. And then there were other people at the company as well, on the management team, trying to push that. So we kind of went through a period of self-evaluation and made a lot of changes. And a lot of it came from the desire to grow, the desire to, be a world-class manufacturing operation. So we started to look outside of ourselves and look at what companies were successful and what they were doing. We looked at awards that were out there, and I really believe in this idea. If you go for different awards, it kind of helps you develop into something better as you try to get that award. So maybe you're not, at that time, definitely not a best place to work, but you apply for it, and you have self-evaluation, you look outside your company, you make changes, and it evolves. We initially started, thinking we wanted to get some manufacturing awards. We went for the very prestigious AME, the Association of Manufacturing Excellence Award. We actually went for it a couple years in a row and didn't get it. And there were a lot of changes that we undertook as we tried to change our operations for that. And I think that's one of the things that started our journey to change our culture.
Yeah. So in other words, what you're telling us is that Powerblanket, when it comes to culture, there's it's not just beer and cannabis infused paintball games. So that's always good to know. Yeah, again, we speak to a wide range of people about culture, and there often is this dichotomy between those values that are expressed and handed down from on high and lived values. So it sounds like you've sort of made a common cause, between those two, and it sounds like it's both a formalized thing, but a lived thing, which I think is ultimately authentic and probably why it's effective.
For sure. So we sat down as a management team about 4 years ago, and really took a deep dive into our culture and our values and all that. And, it's a little corny, kind of a play off our name, but we decided what we really cared about was empowering people. So empowering our employees, empowering our customers, helping them to learn and grow and achieve their goals. We took that kind of overarching goal and looked at a couple other words that really meant something to us, and those are trust and clarity. Trusting the people, the members of our team to do what they say they're going to, and trusting our employees, trusting our team, and then clarity, from a management standpoint, making sure that they know our goals are very clear to them, our requirements are clear to them.
So I'm assuming in 2020 you're going to take this all to the next level by making concrete cool again, and you're going to be on the march.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Well, gentlemen, we really do appreciate your time today, joining us on Work in Progress. Our guests were Nate Evans, the Vice President of Marketing for Powerblanket, and the Marketing Director, Adam Jacobs. They both visited us today on the show from Salt Lake City, Utah. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after these words.
Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Freezing, it was freezing cold in that hotel.
You're listening to Work in Progress with Tom Alexander and Charles Epstein.
Data, the mantra of business today. It's nothing new to World at Work. It's no small feat that they've been collecting data on salary issues for its salary budget survey for more than 45 years. Think about it, 45 years. With close to 7,000 responses, 2019 salary budget survey is packed with insights on base salaries, merit budgets, promotional increases, and variable pay plans. Curious to know how your company stacks up? HR execs in the know rely on World at Work's salary budget survey. Shouldn't you too? Go to worldatwork.org/salary budget survey to learn more.
Wrapping things up now on Work in Progress, along with Charles Epstein. I'm Tom Alexander.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, two fun interviews. Lindsay was very interesting, talking about turning boredom into mindfulness, given how many people are so deeply bored, many of whom are completely bored out of their minds. There's a lot of energy there to be converted, and if she can do that in a systematic way, I think that would be a good thing. And, I would take it a step further if you could convert all of that boredom and harness the energy. I think we'd have something that would be even more effective than the windmills that our president doesn't much like. And, of course, Nate Evans, and, of course, his associate there, Adam Jacobs, Powerblanket. I just hope they go with our slogan, Tom, making concrete cool again. I think that's a winner, and the proceeds will be very helpful in expanding our staff here at Work in Progress so we can keep this juggernaut afloat.
I think that sounds like a plan for sure. I really like what they're doing. I like the whole cooling industry. That's it's a whole new thing. I dig on that.
Yeah, well, I think that there's going to be an ever-expanding market for that as things heat up. Things are going to be needed to be cooled off. And you go to their website, and it is pretty interesting how many things that do, in fact, need to be cooled off, and how much of the stuff that runs our daily electronics, and as Nate was talking about, railroads and switches and so on and so forth. And yeah, as this world heats up, somebody's going to need to cool it off. So, Powerblanket, go get them.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, it's time for us to turn off the switch and cool things down for this week, I guess you could say.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll be back next time on Work in Progress. For Charles Epstein, I'm Tom Alexander. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time. So long, everybody.
This has been Work in Progress, a World at Work podcast about work, life, and everything in between, with award-winning radio host Tom Alexander and WorkSpan's Not Safe for Work columnist Charles Epstein. For more, visit worldatwork.org/work-in-progress. That's worldatwork.org/work-in-progress. Join us next week for another edition of Work in Progress.